Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Thursday, June 1st, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. We're talking Royals today. They're off for the second straight day, an odd scheduling quirk, so that gives beat writer Jaylon Thompson and editor Scott Chasen a chance to evaluate the team as the new month begins. It's not all bad news. May was better than April, and we discuss the prospects for continuing this trend. One thing that we agreed needs to happen, younger players need to find some consistency. That's asking a lot, and we're a little over one-third of the way through the season, but the Royals depend on so many young position players, and they're going to want to make some long-term decisions on guys like Bobby Witt Jr. and Vinny Pasquantino soon. Also, with the All-Star Game voting upon us, we chat about the Royals candidates. Okay, let's get started. Hey, it's great to have you on SportsBeat KC. We've got Jaylon Thompson, covers the Royals for the Star, and editor Scott Chasen. Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's nice to be on this podcast with Jaylon, having Jaylon here, and obviously Blair to talk a little bit of Royals. I think the last time we did this, it was Pete filling in for Jaylon, just like everyone was filling in for Jaylon, and it's been great to have him around. So I'm excited to talk a little baseball today. Yeah,
Jaylon, you're still getting your still getting your bearings right from joining the staff here. What was it? A month ago? What was your start date?
May 8th. That was my start date.
All right. Good deal. So you've seen a lot of Royals baseball so far. You've seen some good and bad. I think that's what we're going to be seeing with these Royals the rest of the way. You avoided the lousy start, the March/April. The team did not have a winning record in May, but it did improve. And I wanted to talk about the contrast between the two periods and things that did go well and what didn't go well. Maybe the best way to start. Well, first of all, before we get into that, the fact that we're recording this on a Royals off day, and we could have recorded this on Wednesday, which was an off day. What's going on here with the Royals schedule? Why do they have two in a row off? Does it have something to do with the Cardinals in the Cardinals series?
Yeah, from what I was told, the Cardinals wanted to play on Memorial Day. So it's a split series. So 2 in St. Louis, 2 at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City. They wanted to play on Memorial Day, and they didn't want to do the Tuesday-Wednesday games. So what they did was they made it be Monday and Tuesday, and then you have the Wednesday, Thursday off. So Thursday was originally supposed to be the off day anyway, but because they wanted to play Memorial Day, they moved the Wednesday game to Monday.
That makes sense. So normally they would have had Monday off, would have played Tuesday, Wednesday, had Thursday off, and then started with the Rockies on Friday. This way, Cardinals and they got a sellout, right? They had a big crowd on Memorial Day, so it worked out.
45,000 fans, I believe.
Yep. And the Royals had their most impressive win of the season on that day as well.
That's right.
As well. So, our conversation comes at a good time. We're starting June. Today's June 1st. As we record this, we've got the month of May in the rearview mirror. Like I said, it was better from a winning percentage standpoint than March/April, but it was still, look, the Royals still playing way under 500 ball. In fact, they were under 400 ball. 10-17 for the month of May, but some decent games. Sign of progress, a little bit of progress. Let's talk about, maybe a good place to start would be who we think the Royals player and pitcher of the month are or should be. The Royals will announce that in the next day or two, probably on Friday when they have the Rockies in town for the opener. Since you've seen most of the games, Jaylon, who would be your Royals player and pitcher of the month for May?
For May, I would go with Salvador Perez as player of the month. He tied the franchise record for most home runs in May with 9. I think the last time that was done was 1995. So I would go Salvi for player of the month. And pitcher of the month, that's kind of a tough one because it's kind of difficult to get good pitching. But I have to go with Mike Myers. He has a 1.35 ERA, I believe, and he just almost threw a perfect game. Well, was a part of almost a perfect game And then his last three appearances, he's been really doing well. He throws strikes. I mean, he comes at you. Matt Quatrero, the Royals manager, said he just is a guy that attacks the zone and is not afraid. So that would be that's my pitcher.
Okay. Blair, isn't that a weird position to be in, where you talk pitcher of the month, player of the month? And for pitcher, you could come up with a couple guys who have made a combined 4 appearances in the month. But, pitching has been so interesting because with the way the year started, it felt like the pitching was way ahead of the hitting, which I know happens sometimes. And then the hitting, I don't know if it ever really caught up, but maybe the pitching fell off a little bit. And that's, all of a sudden nothing was complimenting anything. Very quietly, it kind of felt like the Royals got some, decent production from Zack Greinke or Carlos Hernandez, Taylor Clark. Like, some of these guys have really picked it up. To me, it's been a disappointment to them that the Royals have lost 10 games in the month of May, or did lose 10 games, when the other team scored 5 or fewer runs. And 10 doesn't seem like a huge number, and 5, you give up 5 runs, you might lose that game, whatever. But you look at the Rockies, who they're about to play, the Rockies lost 5 games like that. The Cardinals lost 6 games like that, and both of those teams are under 500, and they're under 500, it's not close. One's 24 and 33, one's 25 and 32, and so, I think it's a lot easier to come up with that pitcher, whereas with the batter, I think Salvador Perez is probably the name there, but, you can give a shout-out to Nick Pratto or Michael Massey, just because they did what was asked of them. They got on base at a pretty consistent clip. I think both were at or above that, around 400 on base percentage. So I think those were promising signs. But, the pitching picked it up. So a lot better of a pool, I think, to pick from if you're going with that pitcher of the month.
Yeah, good stuff there. Salvi, of course, will end up being player of the month for the Royals. I'll have to look in the media guide to see how many times he's won it before. He's got to be close to having the most of these monthly awards for the Royals. But and as Jaylon said, the 9 home runs matches a franchise record. I think it was Gary Gaetti who last did it in 1995. I remember covering some of Gary Gaetti's games here in KC. Power hitter, had a 35 home run season for the Royals that year. And Scott, I like that you mentioned Michael Massey. He really did come after a just dreadful first month of the season, has found his stroke, and I think he hit about 320 for the month. So really nice job by Michael Massey as well. I, too, am intrigued by the pitching and some of the candidates. I think Greinke has a chance to be the player of the month. 2.30 ERA for the month of April, which is terrific. He only got the one victory, still just 1-5 on the season, but he seems to give you. He never seems to qualify for a quality start because you need to go 6, and he's always going 5. But those starts are quality, and he keeps the Royals in the game, just like his last outing. He was Jaylon. That was the most recent game, right? The one in St. Louis a couple days ago. I thought he was kind of typical Zack Greinke, just fooling hitters. And what was it? I know he had back-to-back strikeouts on different pitches that went the same speed, which I thought was that's so Zack Greinke.
It was I believe it was a changeup, and then it was the fastball and the changeup, I believe, were the same pitch, same speed. So that was pretty crazy. And he said after the game that was his best start he's ever had against the Cardinals, and the battles that he's faced against them, going back to his days with the Brewers and the like. So he said that, being on that mound, that he just felt good. He felt everything was sharp, and he was out there battling. It sucks that the Royals couldn't give him some run support, but they struck out 10 times against Miles Michaels, over they didn't. So it's all, if it's not one thing, it's just the other with these Royals.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, Blair, you mentioned it. Guy has a 2.3 ERA for the month. He doesn't allow more than 3 runs in any starts. He goes 5 innings in every start in the month. Team goes 2-4. And I think that's kind of the story of that team right now.
All right, so this was a roundabout way of me getting to the idea that perhaps Salvador Perez and Zack Greinke would be the player and pitcher of the month. It may not work out that way, but it could. It could, right? And so it's with that idea that I sigh a little bit, because I love the fact that Salvi is having the season that he's having, and that Greinke at his age and his place in the major leagues is effective at it's incredible that he's still effective. But I don't want them to be the top Royals, pitcher and player. There's other candidates on this team that I want, younger players that I want to have, to win those awards. Is my sighing and my depression about this misplaced?
No, I don't think so. I feel like the Royals need those younger players to step up. And you can see some players that have that talent in them to do so, like Bobby Witt Jr. having a breakout game the last series against the Tigers, where he had 5 hits, 2 home runs, and a stolen base. It was an incredible display of his well-rounded game. Vinny Pasquantino continues to hit the ball well. He had a crucial double, I believe, against the Cardinals on Monday. MJ Melendez hit a triple that saw Salvador Perez run around the bases like a freight train. So they have these flashes, but these flashes have to turn into consistency. And the only way that's going to happen is they have to just have more experience and get out there and just put it all together. So,
Blair, I think what you said not only kind of strikes a chord, or really puts it well. Not only, for baseball, this is an analogy that applies to every sport. Like, I'm going to throw out the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields. The Chicago Bears don't care if they're losing a bunch of games. If Justin Fields looks really good and the guys they're drafting are getting on the field and playing well. You go to the NBA. The Oklahoma City Thunder have been tanking for a little bit, but all of a sudden their young guys are starting to be their best players, and now they know, okay, we're getting close to the playoffs. And for the Royals, when you look at, Vinny, Melendez, Witt, you want these guys, even if the team's losing, even if they're not playing that well, even if, you bring in some free agent signings, you're dealing at the trade deadline, it's not quite a playoff team, but you're just seeing it every day with those guys. And I think that's one thing, maybe for Bobby Witt, since he's out of that leadoff spot now, maybe that helps him somehow. Maybe that lets him get in a little bit of a rhythm. Jaylon, you wrote a great piece about MJ Melendez, what he's doing to work on his swing. Maybe that helps him a little bit. I think Vinny's generally been solid. Maybe he continues to kind of pick it up and show off his tools a little bit more too. But yeah, it's really that core group. And it's funny, you look at the number of at bats of the team. And it's those guys and Salvador Perez, they're your top 4, and they're your top 4 by a mile. Those are the guys that the franchise is really relying on, and Perez is obviously the elder statesman of that group. He's not the future of the club because he's been so much of the past. Blair, I think you nailed it. Those guys really do need to pick it up, and they need to be finding ways to get those guys to be comfortable, confident, and kind of working together, because before long, you'll have to make some decisions on some of those guys. And so you really need to know how far they can take this team.
Yeah, it's what I was gonna mention that I would add Brady Singer to the list of the young, and even Daniel Lynch, which by the way, good to see him back and did a nice job, didn't he, Jaylon, in his debut game for the year?
Yeah, he did a really nice job. He I would qualify it as a quality start, even though he didn't go the requisite innings to get that. He came in. He really just showed his pitch mix. He had a nice fastball, a nice slider. It was really great to see him out there again.
Yeah. So yeah, Scott, you're right. These are players that the Royals will have to make some decisions on, or you want the Royals to be in a position to make decisions on. Maybe this off season, but yeah, there's a lot of hope invested in Bobby Witt Jr. and Vinny Pasquantino, in MJ Melendez, in Brady Singer and Daniel Lynch and others in the pitching class of 2018. I don't know if we're just impatient observers wanting more, because we have seen flashes of really good stuff from all of them. And Jaylon, you mentioned the Bobby Witt game the other day, maybe the best offensive game he's played as a Royal, and so. The guy has some, in some stat categories, some remarkable numbers, right? His home runs and stolen bases. I remember when Barry Bonds was breaking in, and he didn't hit for average, but he had power and speed, and he had early in his career with the Pirates, he had a 30-50 season. Bobby Witt's trending toward a 20-40 type season. The home runs, stolen bases, which would be incredible. But he still cannot find consistency at the plate with his contact, and still chasing pitches that he shouldn't be chasing. So I'm still very hopeful for him, and he's got some. He's certainly, some tools seem to be ahead of others in his development. What was his demeanor like after his big game last week? When I think he was 4 for 5 with the 2 home runs, the stolen base, and just an all around great offensive game.
Yeah, Bobby Witt is one of those guys where he never gets too high and he never really gets too low. So he was happy to help the team, and I remember him saying something that was so profound. He was saying, like, I know at certain points in time I haven't really held up, my end and out, like, helping as I need to be. So he felt good to be able to come through for the squad when they needed that game. And the funny thing I like to say about Bobby Witt too is he just played his 200th career game. So in the grand scheme of things, if you want him to be better, you want him to break out a little bit more. But if you look at it from a full perspective, a 1,000-foot glance, he's doing really well. In 10 homers, 17 RBI. You said he could be 20-40. I asked him, actually, do you think you can be 30-30 this year? He said it's not outside the realm of possibility, but he just wants to help the team. So, I mean, I think that he's doing fine. It's just, can he be more consistent moving forward? That's my question for him.
Blair, you know this, and Jaylon, you know this, talking to him especially. I'm not sure there's a guy in MLB who has a bigger disparity between the excitement you get watching him on the field and then how mild-mannered he is and chilled and calm. And like you said, doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low in the clubhouse. But I think there's another element of Bobby Witt's game, which, maybe a little overrated, but just fun. I mean, his speed on the base path, like you mentioned, when he's hitting for power, when he has a game like that where, I know a lot of guys come up a triple short of the cycle. It's the hardest part to do. But he came up, short of it because I think he hit a 3-run home run. So,
he hit over the fence.
I think he'll take that one, every single time. So, I look at a guy like that, and yeah, I mean, for him, it's making more consistent contact. You mentioned the pitches he chooses to go on and what he chooses to hit and swing at, and if he can just find a little bit more of that, I think it's a great point, Jaylon, that he is still very, very, very young, and a couple of slow starts to seasons does not, necessarily make it a career-long trend. I think we'll see that over years and years, how he kind of continues to progress. But that is one element, there are a lot of Royals fans here, and there are a lot of Royals fans who get excited about a guy like Bobby Witt because he does flash and make really nice plays at times. I know his defensive metrics have never been a strong point, and he will never be the most defensively sound shortstop. But even then, he's had a couple plays this year that were web gems and were remarkable and just fun because he's got that speed that even if he does make a mistake, sometimes he's able to make up for it with just some of those physical tools that are really fun to watch. So, that's good perspective, though, to consider, just that he is still very young. 200 games. It's funny because at this point, I guess with the Royals playing every day, it feels like he's played 200 games this year. But he's got a few more to go.
And I'll add one more thing. You said the triple was the hardest thing to get. So he asked him when he hit the 3-run homer, did you think that it went over the fence? Because he said, I was running and I was trying to get there. So in his mind, he knew that he needed the triple to get it. But then when he saw it go over the fence, he kind of slowed down a little bit. So if you watch the play, I believe Salvador Perez is running right in front of him, and Witt is like right on his tail until he sees the ball go over the fence and he slows down. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then my second thing I wanted to add too was, if you go to Royals games or you watch this on television, there's a lot of kids and people that are wearing number 7. So Bobby Witt is definitely someone that's like the franchise star. You're going to see 7 or you're going to see Salvy's number out there. So, yeah, it's definitely, the fans are behind him for sure.
I think part of that demeanor comes from being the son of a major league player. We see the same thing with Patrick Mahomes, his demeanor, and it just so happens those two are friends, and of course Mahomes has an ownership stake in the Royals. So, hey, we are long overdue for a break. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back on SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast, and we're talking Royals with beat writer Jaylon Thompson and editor Scott Chasen. There is another topic that I want to broach with you guys, and that is I believe the All-Star voting has started, right? And the All-Star game, of course, isn't until, mid-July, usual place. But you got a whole month of run-up, and so I'm wondering from you guys, is there an obvious Royals candidate? And there's another 30 games that are going to be played before the All-Star team is announced or final fan voting or however it's done these days, combination of the two. How about your early thoughts on All-Star fan voting and who the Royals' best representative would be? Jaylon, we'll start with you.
I would have to say Salvador Perez would probably be my choice if I'm looking at the Royals just as a whole, and it's depending on if they only get one or two guys. Salvi, he is doing what he normally does, hit home runs, RBIs, but he's really just taken this young team and has been the buoy that they needed in games where, the offense is not hitting or it is stalled out. So I would say it's Salvi. I believe he has 12 home runs now, and since April 24th, he's been collecting RBIs. So like I said, he leads team at home, released team at RBIs. So I think that would be my choice. Dark horse candidate, if they couldn't get Salvi or Salvi wasn't selected, I would look at someone. I would say maybe a Bobby Witt Jr. because the All-Star game is always about elevating the young stars in the game. So having someone like that on a big stage, but he has the home runs, he has the stolen bases. The average, you can ding him for that, but the All-Star game is all about excitement. So can you imagine a Bobby Witt Jr. on first base running against a Sean Murphy from the Braves that's catching? And I want to see if he can make that stolen base there, because Murphy throws out almost everyone that's trying to steal him. So that's my personal choice.
Yeah, Blair, the difficult person in me pulled up the stat sheet real quick just to try and find a counter example. But yeah, I mean, look, Salvi's leading them, and I think he's tied for the team lead in hits. He leads them in RBIs. He leads them in home runs. He leads them in OPS. He's up there in pretty much everything. But I think you phrased it really interesting, like a good representative, because that's where I think, like a Vinny or a Bobby Witt, one of those guys having the chance to show something on that stage, I think not only, would look good for the Kansas City Royals, but it would give them a chance to kind of, maybe get some confidence in themselves, or maybe give them a memorable moment that maybe helps them out just mentally in the course of a long season where, you're not doing a lot of winning. But yeah, I think right now I'd have to say Salvi. I don't know, maybe you could find someone from the pitching, but I think he's done enough this season. But yeah, I think there's still a little bit of time, and ideally you'd hope one of those young guys makes it so where it's a conversation, and maybe it's not a conversation in the way that, they just have an absolutely unbelievable next few weeks, and, you got to put Vinny in the All-Star game. He just hit, 8 home runs last week or something like that. You would hope for some kind of interruption like that.
The All-Star game is, we sometimes are conflicted between who deserves an All-Star appearance and who fans would really want to see. Jaylon, you made the point about Bobby Witt Jr. and he's a dynamic player, and I think he's he's certainly a fan favorite, and he's someone that you want to see play. You get excited when he's on base, and however, I'm going to go with both of you guys and agree that Salvador Perez not only is the most deserving, but I think he needs to do. I think everything that's possible for him to do to improve his Hall of Fame credentials needs to happen. And there was I don't know who had the tweet or the blog this past week. Somebody who's a baseball person started forecasting candidates active players and their Hall of Fame credentials, and maybe 10 players or so were listed, and Perez wasn't one of them. So I think that was I really do think that was an omission. It wasn't intentional, but a slight, because there's no way you'd leave Salvi off a list of 10 or a dozen of current players who could someday be Hall of Fame worthy. I think they broke it down into already in, heading in that direction, or no chance, and he wasn't even on the no chance. So if you start stacking, all-star appearances, Gold Glove, Silver Sluggers. He's already got a World Series MVP, and iconic moments in baseball history. But I think he needs more. Like, if his season ended with some kind of tragic injury or something, he would not be in the Hall of Fame right now. He needs 3 or 4 more solid seasons offensively. He needs to get to 300 career home runs, I believe, and as many all-star teams as he can possibly make. I don't want that to happen at the expense of a Witt or a Pasquantino. Look, it'd be fantastic if there was place for both of them, but I think it's becoming increasingly important that Salvi is honored, is awarded the distinctions that he is deserving. And so we'll see what happens. I do think if the all-star team were picked today, Salvi, and the Royals got the one representative, it would be Salvador Perez.
Yeah, and Blair, just to that point, I mean, the prestige that comes with that, especially in baseball, where it's a lot harder to get into that Hall of Fame and to be honored like that. I think it not only would be something that probably means a lot to Salvador Perez, but would definitely mean something to a fan base that, I mean, it was really magical. Not quite a decade ago at this point, but those World Series runs, and when those teams were good. There are a lot of guys who probably never have to pay for a drink in Kansas City again, and one of them's coming back in the next series, and Mike Moustakas, that, hey, you bump into him, or a Hosmer, even a guy like Alcides Escobar or whoever. It's like those guys have such a place in the hearts of Royals fans. So that's a really good point, because that's not something that was on my mind, but anytime you get a chance to stack those achievements, especially in baseball, it goes a long way.
Yeah, I feel like for Salvi, he deserves that opportunity, Blair. I totally agree with you on that. And I saw that list as well. They had Zack Greinke on there as, bona fide, going to be a Hall of Fame.
Right.
But I feel like you have to have his battery made in there as well. Salvador Perez means everything to this organization. You can ask any pitcher that comes up, starts the game, is an opener, is a bulk guy that comes after the opener or whatever. They all say that Salvi is instrumental in developing and helping them be successful in their starts or in their appearance. You can talk about Freddie Fermin, who's backing up Salvi, and Jay Melendez. They all say the same thing. Salvi is just that guy that, if you look at the ethos of the Kansas City Royals, Salvador Perez is that ethos. He's the reason why he's the captain. So I feel like he needs those appearances to get in that All-Star game. You also mentioned the 300 home runs. I would venture to say if he can get to 1,700 hits as well, I think that would be a great number for him as far as catchers are concerned.
I know this will be a continuing topic for us in Kansas City, just making sure that Salvador Perez gets his due from a career standpoint. Okay. Terrific conversation. Jaylon Thompson, Scott Chasen, thank you so much, and we will do it again soon. That'll do it for today. Thanks to Randy Mason for putting together the show, and to our SportsBeat KC staff of Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen, who gets double credit today. Tip of the cap to Scott and to Jaylon Thompson for sharing their insights. The Star produces the best digital sports page in America. It's called Morning Sports Edition, and it can be found at liveedition.kansascity.com. Check it out. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.